everybody. I hope you have a great night. It's Traci coming to you live from New Hampshire Dog Walking Club headquarters, and I am here with Gina Anderson, who is the owner of Good Paws Bakery. How are you, Gina?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good. I'm glad you could join us.
Awesome.
And I don't know if you guys remember, if you joined our special Valentine's outing back on Valentine's Day, the very yummy and delicious treats that were in your goodie bags were supplied by Gina. And we had lots of good feedback from people and pictures of dogs that had completely devoured the bags. And I think, Gina, we're asking for more. What do you think from some of those pictures?
Oh yeah, no, we'll get more. That's awesome. It's always
we really appreciate you giving those goodies to our bags. They were definitely a special treat for Valentine's Day.
Oh, my pleasure.
Well, and what's interesting, and the reason I wanted to bring Gina live to everyone tonight is Gina has a really interesting story to tell. So she was a human factors software engineer, and she's going to explain to us exactly what that means. But basically, she used all of her knowledge of working with humans and understanding how humans perceive their world and process information, and use that in making her dog treats for dogs. So it gave her the background and the information she needed to do the research and, collect the information and create a treat that I'm assuming, based on, feedback at our event, Gina, is very enticing to dogs.
Yeah, no, I'm always happy to see the dogs' reactions to the treats, because you never know. Like, everybody has different tastes and preferences, but in general, they really, really love them. And so every time I see that, it makes me feel really good. And so do you want me to talk about developing them, or?
Well, no, because what I actually want to have you tell people is, tell us all the wonderful flavors that you've created. So, because you've got some really healthy choices.
Yes, so we've got three. So first is peanut butter. So we use an all natural peanut butter, actually Teddy's from locally here in Mass, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just peanuts, all good. And so all my recipes are grain-free, gluten-free, 3 ingredients, all human friendly, so okay to snack on them. And it's very important. One of the first people I talked to said, "Hey, if you develop a treat, you got to make sure it's okay for my kid to eat, because they're going to eat them first, right?" So I said, "Got it." So we took check mark. So we have peanut butter, which is chickpea flour, peanut butter, and olive oil. So that's it. 3 ingredients, easy.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, and then
what? No high fructose corn syrup?
Yeah, right. It's so hard, and no xylitol, right? That's the thing we cannot give dogs. So yeah, this is just peanuts. So we're all set.
Good wholesome ingredients.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Let me give everybody an idea of what we're going to be talking about tonight, Gina. So specifically, Gina is going to share with everybody how a dog's smell system compares to a human's and why dogs have a stronger sense of smell. We're also going to talk about suggestions for making your dogs walk a sniffari that they will be excited about, how dogs perceive color and brightness compared to humans, and what games and toys will give your dog the best visual experience. And again, this is all based on Gina's work in the software engineer world. And Gina, can you tell us, what is a human factors software engineer? It sounds like a fascinating career.
It's a mouthful. Yeah, right. Yeah. So So basically, a human factors person studies how people, perceive their world, whether through, sight or taste or touch or sound, and as well as how they process information, like how they think about things. So a human factors engineer, when you're designing anything, whether it's a piece of software or a tool, like even a pen, or our smartphones, whatever, you're taking into account how people process the information, so that you can build something that's easy to use. Like, the whole idea is take all that experience, build something, test it, and then can somebody use it? And if not, like, what do you tweak? So you're constantly doing adjustments and that type of thing. So in the whole idea of how people perceive stuff, to me, is just fascinating. But then once you start learning about the other animals around us, and specifically our dogs, and how they perceive their world, it's just amazing. And so to have that comparison about how we sense the world versus the dog senses the world, that's where I just have a lot of interest and want to share that information. And yeah, because I think you appreciate these beings more, right? Like once you understand how somebody really takes in their world, like how can I make your world better, like, or at least not restrict it so that we're not inhibiting what you're doing.
Well, I think that certainly taking those things into consideration makes the best positive experience. And certainly by knowing those factors about individuals or pets,
Yeah.
I would think that it's going to increase your chances of having your product sold, because obviously on the user end, you're getting good consumption. So,
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Hey.
well, Gina, tell me what made you decide to switch from being a software engineer, obviously a very lucrative career, and go to becoming a dog treat baker.
I know, right? Another transition. Yeah, it's something where I just felt, after 30 years in the software industry, wanting to change. And this, we had an idea for a product, and I just thought, well, let's just try it. I mean, just wanting to kind of direct your own, I don't know, your own future. I guess, it's just definitely a different challenge, and it's just to have more control and flexibility on your day and all that kind of stuff. But it's different. I mean, it's so different coming from the corporate world to now working, for yourself. It's like the range of decisions that you make and the tasks that you have to do and how to stay motivated to do the important stuff. It's really, it's fascinating. So we're still figuring it out, but yeah, it's all good.
Well, you made the leap of faith, and I'm glad you did, because we're benefiting from knowing you. So that's wonderful.
No, I'm not, I know exactly though, but that's what I feel like too. It's like, oh, the dogs that really love the treats and their customers, especially dogs that have allergies. I have this apple recipe, and they're like, no, we have no other choice. Like, this is and like, that's it. We're committed. So, yeah.
Well, and I just want to let everybody know, if you have any questions for Gina, I'm changing your name now, Gina, for Gina, just give us a shout out, because as I've mentioned before, we have some awesome giveaways for this month. And if you ask a question of our presenter during the live broadcast, then you will receive an entry towards the giveaway. And of course, we love to have your questions, because it helps us get from us. So, Gina, let's talk about some of these key things, because I'm really interested to find out, what research you did to better understand what things are enticing to dogs via sight and smell. So how does a dog's smell system compare to a human's smell system?
Okay. So let's start with first, like, how smell even happens. So whether it's a dog or a person, there's a specialized cell, a specialized neuron called, your olfactory neuron. And let's say it sits, I don't know if we can see this here. Okay, it sits like this. Like, here's your neuron, and it's got these little hairs hanging off the bottom of it. And then along comes a little odor scent, like, oh, here's a little odor, a sense of an odor of bacon or whatever.
Oh, yum.
All of us. Yeah. So it's going to come along, and it's going to hit one of these little hairs, and then the signal is going to come up into the neuron, and then it's going to go travel to a couple of other gathering spots, eventually, like, to your brain, that says, oh my gosh, I know what this is. I like it, or I don't know what this is. It's new. But anyway, these olfactory neurons are like the key to us being able to smell. Okay, so we have them, dogs have them, but there's a number of differences. Okay, so for one thing, dogs have a ton more than we do. So in a human, you have about 6 million of these neurons, where a dog is going to have anywhere between 125 million to up to 300 million. Wow. So like your bloodhound dogs have close to the 300 million mark. And then dogs that have kind of like a shorter face, like a pug or a Pekingese, would have like about 125. And then what's interesting is a German Shepherd has, let's say, around 225. And you're kind of thinking 25 million. So you're kind of thinking, yeah, they have kind of a bigger snout, you know, to kind of hold all those neurons. Well, it turns out a beagle has the same amount. They also have 225 million of these scents. Yeah. So you have like in a smaller package, like the same kind of capability. But so there's one thing is the numbers. The other thing is the structure's different. So lame example, sorry, but with these little hairs that are down here, like a human would have like 25 of them per neuron, where a dog has hundreds. And then where they live is different. So for us, the neurons are just like in our upper cavity or upper nasal cavity. And as the air comes in that we breathe, you know, the odor scents come in and it passes through and along into our lungs. Well, for a dog, when they breathe in, there's a certain amount that, yes, goes, you know, obviously to their respiratory system, but about 10% goes to a very specialized chamber that actually houses all of these olfactory neurons. So these guys are all packed in, and the air that goes in, it's actually kind of trapped in there. And it has all these little folds and crevices and that kind of thing. So the odors get to hang out with these neurons for a long time. Where for people, we're just kind of going in and out the whole time as we breathe. But the dogs get much more time with the scents. And then the other thing is the, so yeah, sorry, I have notes because I can't get all of it. Sorry.
Well, there's a lot of science to it. It's really quite fascinating, you know, how much more they can smell.
Oh, yeah. Us. Yeah. And these structures are what helps with that, right? So they've got it separated out. Plus, when they're breathing stuff in, like the stuff that goes in the right nostril versus the left nostril is separated out in their brain. So they're much faster at like figuring out, oh, the location of that smell, like what direction it's coming from. So that's kind of cool. But the other thing that's amazing too is like when we breathe in and how we breathe out, like how the air leaves us. So we're going in and out of our noses, right in front. And plus, when we breathe out, all the incomings, anything that was hanging around there on the incoming gets blown out. So again, you don't have that as much time with the smell. But with a dog, it comes in the front, and then when it goes out, it goes throughout the sides of those slits. So then if you ever watch, like the little slits get all kind of excited on a dog's nose. And then what happens is the air gets pushed out, and it actually creates like an air vortex that then pushes new smells into the front. So they've got this kind of like little system going in, like bringing me more. Where like, you know, like when you're smelling like something yummy, like you might do this, like to get the smell in your nose. Well, they're doing that all the time, like automatically. So with their noses. So I don't know. I just think that's wild.
Well, it's interesting too. And so can you give us ideas on how to make a really fun, let's say, sniffari for our dogs? So for instance, like with the club, we're going to be doing our first dog Easter egg hunt in April. And we're going to put dog biscuits in the eggs.
Cute.
And based on the information I learned from you, I'm going to get certain color Easter eggs if I can find them that are more visually pleasing to dogs.
Right.
But I mean, can they smell that little biscuit right through the egg with all the smells that might be around on the forest floor?
Oh yeah, they're gonna catch it. I mean, so just in terms of like level of detection capability. So they have all these components, right? The hardware, let's say, that's separate than us. But just to give an example of how much more sensitive they are to smell. So this is an example given by Alexandra Horowitz, who wrote this book, Inside of a Dog. But so when we drink, like, let's say you drink a cup of coffee with a teaspoon of sugar in it, like it'll taste sweet to you, right? I mean, you can kind of detect that, right? Well, if you took a teaspoon of sugar and put it within the equivalent of 2 Olympic-size swimming pools, the dog would be able to detect that there's something there, the sweetness, right? So that's just an analogy to, like, in terms of how much stronger their smell is, like using sense. But it's just like you think about a cup of coffee, 2 swimming pools, right? I mean, so what they do is they they'll be able to tell like where it is, how long has it been there? Like, did you put that down there an hour ago? Did you put that down 5 minutes ago? You know,
Right.
where was it? Where did it come from? Like, where's your car that you brought those things from? They'll track it even. I mean, it's amazing the ability to have the history of a smell and where it is and where it came from. All that, they have so much more information that they are able to discern than we do. So,
So do you have ideas on how we can make a really fun sniffari for them? What kind of things could
I think
dog owners do?
yeah, hiding is really fun. You know, like making things, some that are easy and some that are more difficult, you
Yep.
know. And sometimes too, if so there's an activity called nose work or scent
Yep.
work. Have you ever heard of that? Like,
Yeah, we have a lot of our dog training partners that do
yeah,
that.
do that, right? So sometimes they'll like you'll cue like the dogs that do that, they're already kind of attuned to a specific smell, right? But if you're hiding the peanut butter, it's like I would just give them a little hint, like, okay, this is what you're looking for, you know, like,
Okay.
and then let them go. Because that's usually what I do too when I play hide and seek in the house. Is like
Yep.
I show them what I'm going to be hiding, and then
Okay.
close them in the laundry room, and then go hide the stuff, and then
Oh
open it.
yeah.
Yeah, and then they go run around the house and try.
So a hide and seek sniffari. I like that idea.
Yeah, you can do something like that.
Have
Yeah.
you ever done anything with essential oils? I've heard good things about using essential oils that are okay with dogs that they would respond to, and scenting different things. Like if you're taking a forest walk trail and you scent some of the leaves or different things
Oh
along the path. Have you ever tried that?
no, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
heard good things about that. I'd like to
yeah,
try it with my dogs and with the dog walking club because I think that would be a
yeah.
lot of fun.
No, that would be a lot of fun. Yeah. Yeah, so my suggest they're a little more basic. You know, it's just like when you take the dogs on the walk, you know, just making sure you give them time to do their sniff, because it's really like for us, it's like checking email, right, or messages, and so at least a couple times a day, we try and get them out to let them do their stuff, and yeah, but
Well, I heard a great idea about letting dogs, or a great analogy about letting dogs sniff their environment. And this came from
yeah,
April, who was doing the mini massages at the Valentine's Day event that you came to with us.
yeah,
She said that letting your dog out in the morning to do its sniffing is like a human who needs to read the daily news
exactly.
each morning, because they learn about, what went on in their world, and what has happened or what has transpired since the last time they were there. It's like their little newspaper of information as they go along, and
Yes,
they sniff on their walk. Have you
exactly.
heard that before? Anything
Oh
like
yeah,
that?
yes, yes,
Yeah, I
right,
love that analogy.
right, exactly. Because and then again, like they're going to leave their mark. Hey, I was
Yeah,
here. I checked in. Did anybody else check
they're going
in?
to write some news. Yep.
Yeah, right. And it's like, oh no. And then they'll be able to tell, oh, if somebody came by, like, were they sick? Were they feeling well? Were they, I mean, they can pick up so many different levels of information that, yeah. Yeah, no, that's why I think it's really important to get them out, like at least a couple times. I mean, we try our best to do it at least a couple times a day, you know, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, because the enrichment for the brain is
yeah,
just as important as the physical
right.
exercise. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Because for us, like we're visual, you know, so for us, that's our dominant sense, but their smell is really their dominant sense. So even if like sometimes, you know, like with my husband, he likes to take them on a run, and it's like, well, you know, but you got to give them time to like hang out and smell. And, you know, when you get to the halfway point, like at least everybody kind of have a chance to check it out. So, sometimes not being on a set schedule is always, you know, just kind of being a little bit more open with them too is helpful. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Hold on once.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is what happens when I no longer have my office, when it's taken over by my 21-year-old. And
Yeah.
if somebody asks a question, I have to mute myself so I can answer it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hashtag working from home.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Gina, talk to me about now the sight of dogs as compared to humans. We know that's not as good. So their olfactory is better. Their visual is not as good.
Right. Right.
What have you learned from your time in, a human factors software engineer about sight?
Yeah. So with sight, so again, similar structure where, you know, in our eyes, we have retinas in the back that have special neurons that are used for detecting light and color. They're called photoreceptors. And there's two types of photoreceptor neurons for sight. So one are cones, and cones are what you use to detect color. So in bright light, humans have 3 different types of cones, so we can see, the vast array of colors that we can. Well, dogs have 2 types of cones. So for them, they can see color, but it's more like blues and yellows are very distinguished for them. They see grays, a little bit of violet. So it's not the vast array of colors that we see. Like we see a lot of greens and reds and oranges and all that kind of stuff. Like they don't see that stuff. Like it's more like a blue, yellow world.
Okay.
Yeah.
So more primary colors versus like pastel colors?
They're more pastel, let's say, right? Because with the yellow and the blues, like it's more yellow, blue, gray type. Like we are more like red, green, like think Christmas, is more us, and they're more maybe Easter.
Subdued type colors, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
Right,
so what colors would you recommend for Easter eggs then?
Yeah.
You think the pastel colors will work?
Oh yeah. Well, if you have yellow and blue,
yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is too, so that the other thing they can do is they can detect brightness. So the thing is, so the way we see, so that's how we see color, but for us to see in low light, and also for what you would call for motion detection, you have a different type of cell called a rod, So dogs actually have more rods than people do. So they are better, and so do cats, right? They can see better in low light situations. And they're also better at motion detection, especially like on the side views in your periphery. So with the Easter eggs, like if they are varied in even, some are lighter colored, some are darker colored, that provides some variety as well. And then with the motion detection, I would like, dogs are, so when we can see things on the side as they move. This is why it's always annoying when you have like ads, right, running on your computer screen. You're like,
yep.
It's like
your periphery. Yep.
your periphery, right? And you cannot help it. Like we are hardwired to notice that stuff. And it's just, you can't turn it off. So, from what your brain is going to pay attention to. So same thing with dogs. So I always think about like when I give them treats, sometimes like I'll toss it on the sides, you know what I mean? Like not directly in front, but like, go, it's, kind of like a chase thing too, but it's just to kind of get, I don't know, exercise the sides.
But then they're not necessarily using just their sight though. They could be using their smell to catch something that you threw off to the side, you think?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Right.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah, dogs are their senses are fascinating.
They're so fun. Yeah. I mean, they're used in so many ways too. So.
Well, I know you had some recommendations on games and toys that would be good for dogs based on visual perception.
So yeah, again, just things that like not specific brands, but it just getting back to the blues and the yellows and different shades of those. Sometimes if you see in the stores, they're gonna love anything really, but it's just trying to think about pieces that would give them a little more visual stimulation. So if those I've seen it too, like where toys now, they tend to use more blues and yellows in the colors in the objects, and things that have like variety in terms of brightness. So not kind of like a single value, like all one shade of gray, if you were to look at something in a monotone, but more, that has really darks and lights and that kind of stuff. They'll pick up on those differences.
Well, and then especially if they have an olfactory experience in that toy, then they've got the best of both worlds, because then you're stimulating their visual senses and their olfactory senses.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So that seems like it'd be pretty wonderful.
Yeah. And hearing is a whole nother thing. Like I have to do more research on the hearing part, but yeah, with all the squeakers and all that stuff. Yeah. It's a good thing. Just keep them engaged as much as we can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I know when you and I were talking yesterday about this live broadcast, something you had brought up, which I thought was really interesting, is that you said you have your treats in the airport.
Mm.
So, and you've got this visual cue card to humans who walk by to catch their attention, which I thought was really interesting. You want to tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So we started this with, this guy. So we're actually not in the airports now. We used to be, but with all the changes going on. But one of the things was when you go away and you come home, like you just want to let your dog know that you were thinking about them. So we put together these packages, so you can kind of, if I get to the camera and see,
Yep.
but so here's like this amount of treats, like it's a decent amount of treats, and then just like a little card on it that would say like thinking of you when I'm in Las Vegas, or thinking of you when I'm in New York. And I would do these tags specific to the different locations that they would be placed in these stores. And I know they were a big hit because it's like people love to bring something home, right?
Yeah.
To their four-legged loved ones at homes, as well as their two-legged loved ones.
That's right.
So, so it was a good match. And then the tag is kind of fun. And I think the dogs do get it. You know what I mean? Like you bring something home for them, they know you were thinking about them. So, so putting something together like that was fun. Yeah.
So you had to come out of the airports due to COVID?
So a couple of things. Yes, but then also more about the business decision of what we were getting paid for making these and having them in stores in the airport. I was not able to sustainably create them at the price that they wanted to pay because of the overhead of the shops and stuff like that. But we totally it was a great concept. And so if I can lower my price at some point, then we can go, I feel like that door is totally open to go back.
Yeah, that's a whole tricky balance with products. I've always only ever been in the service world and have always thought about creating a product, but makes me nervous. There's so many factors. I watch Shark Tank and I'm like, oh, wow, I can't even imagine, all the things that manufacturers go through. So kudos to you to, put yourself out there and create a wonderful product. So.
Yeah, it was fun. In fact, it's funny because I walked by, one of the shops that we were in. This is like after we were no longer in there. And I just felt such appreciation for the opportunity to have been in there. It was just like, oh, that was really good,
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's all good. It's all part of the
experience.
Yeah, it's all part of it.
Well, I do have a question here. Let's see. Ray wants to know.
Yeah.
Kind of a funny question. Why do dogs like bad smells when they can smell so much better?
I know. Yeah. Yeah, why do they like bad smells?
So, like, why do dogs eat poop, which smells really yucky and tastes really yucky? We could go down a whole rabbit hole with a discussion. Maybe we don't want to go there.
I don't know. Well, that's what's so interesting. It's like why they're attracted to certain
But maybe
things.
it doesn't smell bad to them and it smells bad to us. I don't know. Do you have any research on that?
I don't. It would be, I think, well, when they're going in, let's say, to poop or a dead rabbit or whatever it is, it's just as gross. But I think, yeah, there must be something else in there that is of greater interest or
that they can smell that even if we wanted to smell it, we couldn't, my dog, after she has her breakfast, will, go out behind the chicken coop to the woods where the deers have been bedding down and eat a little delicious nugget out in the woods, Yeah,
exactly.
There's obviously something there that she's enjoying the smell of, and the taste. So
I know. Just no kisses immediately afterwards.
No, exactly.
Right.
Well, it's funny because we actually put a GoPro camera on her after she would keep going out there and we couldn't, she was gone. She usually would go out and come back because it was breakfast time or it was lunchtime or it was biscuit or something. So we put a GoPro camera on her to figure out where she was heading off to because she wasn't coming back dirty. I didn't know if maybe she was out there digging in something or Oh, here we go. Monica is chiming in. Monica is one of our expert partners. She says fragrance is in the nose of the beholder. I like that. You're absolutely right, Monica.
It's true. So speaking of that, though, it does make me think about too, if I'm bringing them into an enclosed space, like into a car or something like that, then I'm really sensitive about what else is in the car, in terms of smells, because I just know, oh my gosh, you guys, this is going to be killing you, you know? I
Well,
mean,
especially because you have them confined in that little space and they don't have a way to escape. Like if you're burning aromatherapy in a part of your house, if the dogs don't like the fragrance, they can relocate themselves. But they
exactly.
can't do that in a car and they can't necessarily tell you. So then they start sneezing or hacking or coughing, and this continues for a long period of time. And then, people are burning candles in their house or incense or something like that, and they're wondering what's happening with their dog.
Right.
Yeah, that's a whole other
candles is another great example, right? So it's just, once you understand, like, oh my gosh, how sensitive it is, like you just start thinking about things differently. Like, what can I do to not cause you excess? Like,
right. And that's a whole discussion about volatile organic compounds that we will save for another day, but a lot of good information to be shared about that. Here's a question for you, Gina. So one viewer says, are there any scents that dogs love that we wouldn't necessarily think of? Good smell, not gross stuff.
The dogs love that we wouldn't necessarily get smells.
Well, you said bacon. We know that they obviously love that, but my husband does a lot with essential oils, and we know that like lavender they enjoy, and it's calming and it's relaxing.
Yeah.
Are there any other any research you came across that would suggest?
So this is another thing I do too. When I come into the house, like immediately, if I'm carrying anything, like they want to smell it. So I don't have a specific answer, but just in terms of, sometimes I'm surprised, like how much time they give to like a bag or something like that. It's like, I'll just like, okay, guys, take your time, because they're right there. And maybe it's just a habit. Like they know, like I'm going to let them smell it or whatever, but, and check everything out. We always get checked out too, right? When we walk into the house, they're going to know, like, oh, who were you with?
Right.
So,
well, they're asking too, like vanilla or spices. Like, for instance,
right.
did you pick your ingredients specifically because they had more of a stimulating olfactory sense with dogs, or more because they were healthy, or both?
More because they were like of interest and healthy, right? So with the cheese, the Parmesan cheese, there are dogs that are just straight out cheese lovers, and so that that worked out great for them, right? And then the same thing with the peanut butter. A lot of dogs like peanut butter. And then the apple ended up just being more from the holistic standpoint, like what's a good, very neutral food. But I love how they smell, like the way they come out when they're baked, like it's, oh, that is pretty good. but even in the kitchen, like when I'm cooking, I'll just let them smell anything that, like, they come up to the counter and it's like, oh, you just want to smell this, or if taste it. I mean, as long as it's not one of the, the foods that they should not eat,
right?
Which, we can go through that list one day. But I always like hold it to them and see what they might like. I figure it's so individual, but.
Well, and do you have smell and taste and vision testers that live in your house that help you with your baking?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I got to imagine you have to have some little four-legged cutie trying out your treats for you.
Oh my God, I know. Yeah, they sit under the table, especially when I'm packaging. Like they just sit right there. They're just like, she's going to drop one. I know it. And they're electronic. They can make me drop one. I mean, I can be totally set, and all of a sudden one flies out. I'm like, stop it.
Well, is that a picture of them on the wall above your head? Is that?
So those are, so one of them, and then two dogs, the one closest to me, Petey, he passed about two years ago. But the one on the other side of him, Duncan, we still have. And then Abby is our newest puppy, and she was the one I took on the Valentine's walk. So,
oh yeah, that's right. You did get to meet Abby.
Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah, we love them. We just love them.
Well, Gina, tell us about, because I know you have a special offer. If people decide that they want to sign up for your newsletter, they can get a little bit of extra discount.
Yes. So by signing up with the newsletter, you would get a 10% discount coupon code, and then you can use that on your first purchase. And then once you receive that first purchase, I have another flyer in the box that you can use as a 15% coupon code for your second purchase. So that hopefully is some incentive to give us a try and see if your dog likes it. And I now have set up on my website the ability to do my treats based on subscription basis.
Oh,
So
nice.
there's an ongoing, 5% discount for folks that sign up as
Oh, that's wonderful.
yeah. So that's fun. Yeah.
And you can do that at Gina's website, which is goodpawsbakery.com.
Yes.
And let me just show, I want to show one of your products here. So if you attended my special announcement earlier that I made at 3 p.m. today, one of the prizes that I was giving away was this basket here with all these little goodies. And inside of it, we've got, let's see, peanut butter recipe dog treats, apple recipe dog treats, and a Parmesan cheese. So you'll get to try one of each of them.
Right.
And this is as an incentive to sign up as a founding member for the club. This is one of the prizes we're giving away. You have to tune in each day at 3 p.m. to find out what else we're giving away. So thank you, Gina, for contributing your love to this basket.
Oh, you're welcome. Happy to do it.
Well, thank you, Gina, so much for spending time with us and talking to us about your wonderful bakery and your treats. And thank you for joining us and donating to us. We really appreciate it. And I know that you and I talked, you'll be back later this year because we're going to actually go to your commercial kitchen.
Yes.
We're going to go behind the scenes and show all the cool stuff that you do, which I'm very excited about. So we'll let people know when that's going to come up later this year from Gina's location in not Hudson. Where you Wyndham?
Well, yeah, I live in Wyndham.
Wyndham.
And the kitchen's in Derry. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It's all good.
Well, good. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for your awesome questions. We appreciate it. And thank you most of all, Gina, for your time. And I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their week. Take care, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.